Underwriting for the Money Doctor Show is provided by Ryan and Casey Liquors, Main Street, Greenfield. Exploring the world one glass at a time. West County Equipment Rental of Shelburne. Daily, weekly, monthly rentals. 625-6463 or on the web at westcountyequipment.com. The Franklin County Community Development Corporation. Growing sustainable businesses and communities since 1979. www.fccdc.org. Weld Communications, Marketing and Publicity. Helping businesses spread the word in the Pioneer Valley and beyond. www.weldwords.com.
There's a better life if I could be debt free, but all my money is a mystery. I was feeling overwhelmed and it was wearing thin when I knocked on the door and heard the doctor's in. Oh, the doctor's in, the doctor's in. She got the right prescription to help you win. Oh, the doctor's in, the money doctor's in.
Hello and welcome to the Money Doctor. I'm Dr. Frances Rahaim, president of Power Down Debt, a positive debt management company. And my guest today is Steve Capshaw from VSS, which used to be Valley Steel Stamp.
It did.
And I'm going to ask you some details about that, but welcome.
Oh, thank you very much. I'm glad to be here.
Thanks for coming. Give me a little background about that. What was Valley Steel Stamp? What did it do and when did you start it?
Well, Valley Steel Stamp, my father started in 1971, the year that I was born. He got out of the Army, back from Vietnam, and he started Valley Steel Stamp. And it was just him making marking tooling, hence the name Valley Steel Stamp, for local industries, specifically GTD, Miller's Falls Tools as well. And as the years went by, they continuously expanded, basically by about an employee per year for quite a few years, up until about 10 years ago when there were just shy of 20 employees, still making just steel marking tooling.
The kinds of things that steel marking tooling would mark, for instance?
Well, a big component of the business over that time was marking hand tools. So all Craftsman tools, Snap-on tools, Stanley tools, a lot of different companies used our marking tooling to mark their products. There was other products as well, like firearms, the barrels of rifles are marked. It's quite a few other things. Plumbing products for your home, electrical connectors, a lot of them are marked. A lot of them are marked by law, and the company had done that for quite a few years.
Interesting. Okay. So, and your dad started this the year you were born?
Yes.
Wow. Did he start it for you? Did he have that in mind?
No. I think he needed a job to get money and support his family. So he came back to Greenfield, which is where my family was from. And my grandfather had another local machine shop, and he got into machining. And there was certainly plenty of industry to support around here. Interesting.
So he was working for somebody else as a machinist before he started this, do you think?
No, he was, like I had said, he was in the Army. Growing up, like a lot of people in Franklin County, he certainly worked in local machine shops doing low-level, unskilled jobs in GTD. He worked for a few years. I know he was at Miller's Falls Tool as a teenager a little bit.
Yeah.
But
GTD
then
was Greenfield Tool and Die?
Greenfield Tap and Die.
Greenfield Tap and Die.
Yeah,
I wasn't from the area originally, so but it sounded familiar.
Which is currently Kennemetal, and anyone that grew up here knows the name GTD.
Yeah.
It largely built the town.
Yeah, amazing. That's an important point. It largely built the town.
Yes.
We live in America. We complain, no, we don't make anything. America doesn't make anything. We have this whole reshoring thing that's starting to surface where we're getting jobs back from China and other countries. But I'm not sure that we have anybody to do the jobs. And that's why you're here today. So
it is.
Would you talk a little bit about that? What's going on with that?
It's painful within industry over the last 10 years to watch the public perception of manufacturing, but it's understandable. Again, if you grew up in Franklin County like I did, and a lot of people watching, you grew up and manufacturing was a dirty, dingy place where ultimately you lost your job to someone down south or in Mexico or overseas.
Right.
The large companies that built this town, the GTDs, the Miller's Falls Tool, they all, the Union Butterfields over in Ethel, the same thing happened in each case. So at exactly the point in time about 10 years ago when the paradigm started shifting because the capital involved in making things became much more complicated and the people who could run it could stand to earn a lot more money. And there was the ability to take on a lot of work. We've been turning away work for years now because we can't find people to be able to do it.
Yeah, that's partly
at that point in time, the
show.
public was at its lowest point in terms of its perception of manufacturing.
Right.
And you really didn't see young people whatsoever that were interested in going into the field.
Yeah, the idea was manufacturing was what you did because you couldn't get a better job.
Exactly.
Right.
And it really was. When I was growing up in our shop, working for my father, I would do very, very repetitive tasks on a manual machine,
right,
on a manual lathe or on a manual Bridgeport machine,
right,
all day, every single day. And it's nothing like that anymore.
Right.
The machines do the work, but people with a lot of skill program and set up and design productive systems,
right,
using those machines.
You know, getting ready for the show this morning, I was thinking about how anytime we're trying to affect a change like this, we have to change the conversation we have with ourselves about things. It used to be that when you ask someone, and maybe still now, when you ask someone, what do you do? And they worked in a factory of any sort, they would say, I work at GTD. I work at GTD.
Right.
And that would be it. Just, I work it there. You had no idea what they really did.
Right.
I'm thinking that, I'm hoping now with a higher skill level that when you say to somebody, what do you do? They answer you with, oh, I'm a CNC specialist at GTD, or I'm something like that, right? I think we might have some B-roll that we can fit in here. There
are a lot of things like that. When you tell people when people who work for me tell people what they do, they say, I'm a machinist.
Right.
Well, that covers a very wide spectrum. It's as if saying that a janitor at Bay State Health is the same thing as a neurosurgeon, that they're both healthcare workers.
Right, exactly.
They're really not.
Right.
There's still low-level manufacturing jobs,
yes,
which are not a good thing to have, which are not expanding.
Right.
So moving forward in the coming decades, there are a lot of published studies, one by the Department of Labor, where there are 3 open jobs for an advanced machining position for every certified advanced machinist over the next 3 to 5 years.
What would you estimate, just for people watching, in our area, what does an advanced machinist technician earn hourly?
They make anywhere from, depending on where their skill level is, people within our company who are at the low level of being able to independently program a machine makes a minimum of $22 an hour.
Right.
At the high end, they make upwards of $35.
Yeah. So it's not your father's machine
we have
shop
an individual
anymore, right?
who graduated from the tech, who I refer to frequently, who makes $90,000 a year, and he's 27.
Wow.
He graduated from the tech with no other training other than learning on the job how to independently program, set up, and run machines.
Wow. If you're just joining us, our guest is Steve Capshaw from VSS. We're talking a little bit about the manufacturing problem. I'm going to call it a problem in America, that we don't have enough people to manufacture, enough skilled people to manufacture the high-end components we need to manufacture to keep it here. So one question that comes to mind is, I'm a parent. I'm not a parent actually, but let's say that I'm a parent, and I want my child to go to college. I want them to go to a 4-year college at least. I want them to grow up to be a doctor, a lawyer, a physicist, an architect, whatever dreams I have for my child. And if I dig under the surface, if I scratch under the surface, I realize that what I really want for them is to have a good life. I want them to be able to afford to have the things in life that make them happy, and I want them to have the respect of the local people around them, et cetera, et cetera. And so in my mind, I've created this idea that a physicist has that life, or a doctor has that life, but a machinist doesn't have that life.
Right.
Break that myth for me.
Well, I'll respond with what I witnessed last summer as I was trying to hire people. So we had, when we advertise for a position, we have boatloads of people that come to our door. And there were 3 people that came to our door that had graduated from UMass either that past May of a year ago or 2 years ago with Bachelor of Arts degrees. And they were really great kids. I call them kids because I think I'm getting older, but they were really great kids, really enthusiastic. They knew nothing about our industry, and we could not hire them. They didn't have even the base skills that someone who comes through a basic program with 200 hours of training has, so we couldn't hire them. So the third individual, who I really spoke to for a while and was looking for advice from me, and I advised going to get some training to get into our industry. I asked him, and I don't know that I was supposed to do this in the interview, I'm curious, do you have any debt? He had $50,000 in debt.
That's right, in student loans.
He had just graduated.
Yep.
Because of that debt, there was no way he was going to graduate school, and he never planned on doing so.
Yep.
And he had no specific skill coming out of college.
Right.
And it occurred to me, going through the elections last fall, where both sides both Obama and Romney were arguing, the whole conversation about education was getting kids through 4 years of college.
Right.
That at some point, people are missing what is actually happening in society. Yeah. Again, I mentioned the one employee before who's making $90,000 who's 27. I have 10 people who are all in their 20s or 30, 31 years old, all of whom own their own houses, have very little debt, and are making a minimum of $65,000 a year, and again, upwards to $90,000 a year.
Right.
And never went to a minute of college, but have very, very specific skills. And more so than that, if my company was, God forbid, went out of business, was hit by an asteroid or something else happened, they could get jobs like that.
Right.
They're in demand up and down the valley, and 40 companies I can name off the top of my head that would hire them at the same rates or higher, just like that.
That brings up the really important point. These people, for instance, who had the bachelor's degrees, who came to your place of employment looking for a job, were there because the money was attractive and they didn't have an opportunity somewhere else where they could use whatever degree they had.
Right.
Which means they've just spent 4 years in college. And believe me, I'm a fan of education, but I say this all the time. Don't confuse book smarts with intelligence.
Right.
Don't confuse a college education with being skilled at your profession. But they were obviously there for that reason, and you couldn't hire them.
Right.
So now we've sort of got if I dare really go out on a limb here and say we might have a glut of people who come out of college with a 4-year degree. And what a 4-year degree used to do for you, because we have so many people coming out of college with 4-year degrees now, it's sort of watered down. And it maybe doesn't do that. And so unless you're going to become a specialist in something, you may not have the prize at the end of that college education, and instead what you've got is this big student debt. To use an analogy, you know, I'm years old, you know, and I can remember a doctor actually coming to my house when I was a child, a house call doctor. Now, we lived in the country, granted, but a doctor came to my house on a regular basis, you know. Today, you can't even get a primary care physician. Everybody is a specialist. So if you are going to college for that route and you are a great student and that's the right thing for you to do, by all means, pick a specialty, go into it. Take a look at what you have for job opportunities when you get out and maybe target it that way. If you're not doing that, and college isn't for everyone, and this is what kills me. I see parents strapping themselves for college loans to send a D student, a C student, whatever, to college because they could get accepted at this college.
Right.
They might be better suited for a different lifestyle. You have
and they don't necessarily, there's a couple of things that I would advise on that front.
Yes.
One is, firstly, there are kids who know what they want. And in order to garner success, I think, moving forward, it's a little bit different than it was in the past. You really need to have a specific skill that's in demand. When I graduated from college, again, I'll gloss over how long ago that was. You could graduate with a liberal arts degree and then get slotted because you got good grades into a good company that would train you on the job, and you could move up from there. I think it's very different now.
That's right.
You've got to be able to go into school, if you're going to spend a lot of money on school, having a specific skill coming out that's in demand. If you don't, and God knows I wasn't when I was 18 years old going to college, if you don't know what you're going to do, then don't spend a lot of money in the meantime. I think that's something we don't preach a lot of, is maybe you should go get your associates for 2 years while you're trying to figure it out.
That's right.
On the cheap, and then transfer.
That's right.
If you want to.
Absolutely.
But you're right. The whole sort of, we're all cattle just marching towards, you know, throwing our money towards 4-year degrees. Yeah. And even I know this because I live it every single day. But there's a public perception that you want your kids. I think that I would feel unsuccessful if I don't get my kids to go to 4-year schools. Right.
It's a keeping up with the Joneses thing. And it has. I mean, you know, kids without college educations very often have not done as well in life as kids with college educations in the past. What you're saying, I think, is there's another area to look at. There's another avenue. There might be people who are well-trained or well-suited to do what you do, and they should maybe be looking there as well as college. We're going to take a break in a minute, but when we come back, I want to talk about adults as well. And what's happening now. We have all these unemployed people. Their jobs aren't available for them. You have a possible solution.
I think we do.
Okay. So we'll be back in a moment with Steve Capshaw.
Underwriting for the Money Doctor Show is provided by Ryan and Casey Liquors, Main Street, Greenfield. Exploring the world, one glass at a time. West County Equipment Rental of Shelburne. Daily, weekly, monthly rentals. 625-6463 or on the web at westcountyequipment.com. The Franklin County Community Development Corporation. Growing sustainable businesses and communities since 1979. www.fccdc, Weld Communications, Marketing and Publicity. helping businesses spread the word in the Pioneer Valley and beyond. www.weldwords.com.
Welcome back to the Money Doctor Show. I'm Dr. Frances Rahaim, and my guest is back with me, Steve Capshaw from VSS. Welcome back.
Oh, thank you.
Now, on the break, I always tell people what we talked about on the break because it seems like the best part of the show to me. On the break, we talked about coming back and talking about adult training and all of that, and I said, having never really spoken to you before, I said, tell me how you got into this business.
Well, I grew up, I think I was slave labor for my father growing up. Yeah. So I grew up, we'd go every single weekend to work on Saturday mornings, and I'd work after school, and I grew up learning how to machine. On Bridgeports and lathes, and I would do different odd jobs, cleaning the bathroom, that kind of thing. Yeah. And I grew up doing it. And when I was in school, in college, I would come back in summers and work for my father. Yeah. And that's how I sort of got into it.
Let me stop you for one second. Now, I hope everybody got that. He did not get a machine shop from his father and just go straight into the machine shop. You broke out. You said, I'm going to go to school.
I did.
Okay. Where'd you go?
I went to Boston College.
BC?
Yep, went to BC.
Go Eagles.
Go
right?
Eagles, that's
Go
right.
Eagles. Okay.
Many, many years ago. No one says that anymore because they don't win any football games anymore. But
well, neither do the Red Sox, but I still love them.
Right.
It's okay. So anyway, there's my whole...
Yeah, but I had an odd path into it. I went to school and I had no idea what I wanted to do. So I went to school and I got my degree in economics and political science. And when I graduated, I'd gotten out and I didn't know what I wanted to do then. So I decided that I was going to go to law school. So I started taking the LSATs and getting prepared for that while I came back and worked for my father. Yep. And I was going to work for my father in the intervening year and then go to law school. And in that time, as I got into it, sort of my thinking changed, as it does for many people that age. And I started to see the possibilities of what it could be someday. And my father really never leaned one way or the other. I think he assumed I was not going to remain in the business. But as time went by, and I applied to law schools, and I got into a few, it came to decision time, and I decided that I didn't want to do it. So I stayed with the company, and 20 years later, here we are.
Yeah, interesting. Now, you said a degree in political science.
Yes.
And economics.
Yep.
And off the air, you said to me, has nothing to do with what I do.
Yeah, I can't really say. I really enjoyed my 4 years in college, but I can't really say that it has directly benefited me whatsoever. Okay, I don't think that I learned any skills there that I've used on the job since then.
Because what I thought was, well, that's interesting. You may not think you're using those skills, but you run a company. Your skills in economics probably help you to run that company. Your skills in political science, I don't know, maybe help you to get money from the government.
Yes, I suppose that's true, which I just recently did.
Yeah, so let's talk about that a little bit.
But when you go to school and you take economics courses, they're more macro courses.
Of course, yeah.
Which really don't tie into...
But you get a comfort level, though.
Yes.
Don't you think? I mean, I think I'm such a big fan of knowledge. Knowledge is never wasted. You went to you got a degree in economics and political science, but it's not wasted. It's there somewhere, and it might be why you...
I guess I look at it in terms of cost benefit.
Well, yes,
which is how kids should look at it these days.
You see other people in that light, because you didn't just do machining and that was it. You went to college, so now you understand somebody else who gets out of college who maybe doesn't have those skills.
It was cheaper back then, but years later, would I want to spend $60,000 a year going to BC for 4 years?
Well,
to learn a couple things about how to communicate? I don't know that I would. I don't know that would be wise from a cost-benefit standpoint.
So tell me a little bit about this project you've been working on that involves politics.
So for several years here, for 5 years plus, we've been desperately trying to recruit and train up people within our company because it has been the weak link in the chain. We've been turning away increasing amounts of work to where now I frequently say we turn away 70, 80, 90% of the work that's offered to us, and that's true. Not because we can't buy machines to do it or we don't have the space, but because we don't have the intellect as a company. We don't have enough people that know how to set up these highly, highly complicated, productive machinery, CNC machinery, to be able to bring it on. So it's really slowed down our growth. As I got out there, and I got into a local board down in Hampden County, where they're a couple years ahead of us in this, they were experiencing the same thing.
Yep.
But worse than our company, they have a significant retirement problem. So where they can't hire anyone, they're also losing a lot of their talent level over the next few years. So we saw them get together, lobby their politicians to get new equipment in their facilities, and lobby to fund an adult education program through the Regional Employment Board. So I sort of sat on a committee down in Hampden County for that, and we came back to Franklin County and was just stunned at the lack of anything going on.
Yep.
So I started to get together local machine shops who were all, the minute you started talking about the inability to hire people, their eyes just lit up, and it looked like people were about to just explode, because it's been the problem in 40 machine shops throughout Franklin County for several years now.
Right.
So as we drill down, the same issues as there were in Hammond County, the facilities of the tech school were laughable. There's been just no investment in machinery, or almost none, since 1975 when it was built.
Right. It's almost useless.
Its facilities are tied to a time in manufacturing that was very manual. All the machines there were manual.
Right.
People can come out of that program and know they cannot be hired. They know nothing.
Right.
So then also, in a time when there's so much unemployment and underemployment, and we all know Franklin County is one of the poor counties in the state, there is no adult education program. So here you have 40 manufacturers throughout Franklin County desperately trying to hire people for well above average wages in the county, well above average benefits, and no training, no base training system to be able to give them the ability to get entry-level jobs in our companies. Yeah. And by base level training, I mean 220 hours. 250 hours. That's what's been set up in a program in Worcester at WPI and in Hampden County beginning last year, which we're attempting to emulate this fall. So we went to the state. We needed two things: to fund an adult education program with the Franklin Hampshire Regional Employment Board, which they've applied for a grant for, and they've received word that they're going to receive that funding. So they already have an application on their website. I believe it's, I'm not sure what the website is. I think it's FHREB.
We'll get the website for them. We'll put it up.
Okay.
We'll put the website up for them.
And then we've been lobbying the state since last fall to be able to replace the facilities of the tech school, which are used for both the adult education program and the kids program. So we're very, very excited because we're near the finish line. So we needed $500,000. Local industries put up $214,000 to date. We're hoping to get to $250,000. And we were lobbying for the state to match our funds to renovate the facilities this summer. So the state has put it in the House budget for $200,000, and in the Senate, we learned last week, they put it in for $250,000.
Right.
So we believe, we're crossing our fingers that it's going to happen.
Some of that stuff's going to happen, right? Exactly.
So we're going to have a big ribbon cutting, hopefully, at the beginning of the school year next year for both the adult education program and the kids program, and it should be just a beautiful facility of completely up-to-date, brand new CNC machining centers.
Speaking of a beautiful facility, I have so many questions going through my mind, I don't know what to ask first. A walk through your plant is like a walk through a hospital. I mean, it is not, it's not your father's, nothing against your father personally, but that old saying about it's not your mother's whatever, it's not your father's machine shop anymore.
I don't vilify what machine shops used to be like the machine shops of yesteryear, GTD, Miller's Falls Tools. My father's company when I was growing up,
where it started.
There were dirty places.
Well,
there were dirty places. I think a lot of people who watch this.
There was oil everywhere. There was,
When you left work, you went home, you showered, you took off your clothes at the door. It was what it was. It's very different now. The machines are completely enclosed. The machines do the work. You hardly touch product. You're really programming machines. Computer. Right. You're programming robots.
Commercial and aerospace engineering. It's, this is high-tech stuff.
It is.
So that was one thing that was going through my mind. The second was, I read some stats on how many jobs are available and what we have to fill them. And the first thing I said, I told you off camera, I was talking about this show to people before the show because I was excited about the idea that you were going to come on and talk to people about there might be another route for you to take, whether you're unemployed or whether you're a kid looking at college or you have come out of college without the skills you thought you had. And they said, well, the tech schools should be filling those jobs, shouldn't they? And I know, I mean, you told me the equipment is antiquated, but do you have any idea of the stats on that?
The Hampden Employment Board has been a leader in generating these stats. So in the next 5 years, there are 4,500 advanced machining positions opening up through growth and a lot through attrition of retiring employees in the next 5 years. Frankly, when I say Western Mass, I mean just the Pioneer Valley. That's not including out in Pittsfield. 4,500. 4,500. And basically half of that's in Hampden County. The remaining amount is in Hampshire and Franklin County. All the tech schools in Western Mass combined graduate, I believe it's 60 people per year.
How many?
60.
60.
60, that's it.
So we're going to fill a couple hundred of those jobs maybe?
That's it,
max.
at the most.
Wow.
Which is why money has started flowing from the state.
It has to.
Once all these stats started coming out, the pay rates, the benefits, and the amount of open positions, and it's more than that, companies really feel like they're in crisis mode. They're advanced, really advanced machine shops, some of the most advanced in the world in Hampden County, making the fuel control cells for jet aircraft, for the military and otherwise. And they feel like they won't be able to keep up with current orders, given the attrition and retiring employees that they have.
Wow.
Not including growth.
Well, given this giant challenge that you have of a company that is building these things and without enough skilled labor to do it, what do you see for the future of your company? How long will it take to turn this around, do you think? Where do you think you can go?
I'm confident. I think we'll be successful no matter what. Here's the difference for Franklin County, and for those of us who grew up here, who think that Franklin County can be great again making things. There's a multiplier effect. If there's no education system or no pathway to get adults and kids into our companies and to help us grow, when I retire 20 years from now, perhaps I'll have 200 employees or perhaps I'll have 100. Now multiply that up and down the valley and throughout Franklin County.
Right.
That's going to be determined by the educational system.
Right.
We can move quicker and bring on work quicker the more we can hire people who know what they're doing.
Okay. What part of this will, or what role will all these unemployed people that we have now, do you think a lot of them will retrain? Will they use this equipment that you hope to purchase with these funds?
The example I would say is that we just hired an individual who just went through the adult education program in Worcester. So he was in an auto tech job and he felt that he did not have a bright future. He had a family, he had a mortgage, he was struggling to get by. I think he was making in the
to make the dollars.
He was making in the mid-teens. You know, really no benefits to speak of. Working hard, and he had gone through tech school and gotten that training. And he was, I think he's about 29 or 30 years old. So he had gone through the adult education program exactly as we're designing it here in Worcester. So it's 250 hours of training in order to make someone a base level operator. So once he went through that training, we hired him, and right now he's working for us. And he's making 20 per hour. He just switched to third shift, so now he's making 24 per hour.
Right.
And he makes our industry's benefits. Now in my company, that's 100% paid medical. Employees pay nothing for their premium for Blue Cross.
I was just going to ask you about your benefit package because I know it's outstanding.
And then we have 100% match 401k.
Did you hear that? 100% match 401k? Nobody does that anymore.
Well, everyone throughout our industry does. I wish I could say that makes me unique or special, but
well, that's interesting.
It's really throughout. It's sort of well documented. Machine shops up and down the valley really pay above average benefits. And right now, quite frankly, we're hiring by just taking each other's employees.
Well, I was thinking that, you know, if you have this nucleus base of people, that's all you can do.
Right.
I read a stat that said the average age of a machinist is 53 years old.
Right.
So, I mean, the writing's on the wall there. Even if you have good machinists now, at 53, you don't have them for that many more years before they retire. So we've got to start replacing these. We've only got about 2 minutes left, but tell me in closing what you think is the most important, what you hope for this area for manufacturing.
I think people in the world, there's just a misunderstanding about manufacturing. The first thing we need to do is fix the perception of our industry. Firstly, people pay for things that they want. People want things that they drop on their feet and they hurt. They want cars, they want houses, they want infrastructure, they want food. All these things are manufactured.
Yes.
Or you're manufacturing systems to distribute them.
That's right.
And increasingly the U.S. is competitive because the capital to labor ratio has shifted dramatically. People are being coupled with highly productive machines, and their skill level has got to be very, very high, and they have to be highly compensated to be able to do it. At the same time, demand in countries that were taking this work from us, in China and India, domestic demand has skyrocketed. Domestic pay rates have gone up dramatically. The ratio used to be 26 to 1 for the pay rates in China. I think 15 years ago, I believe it's now 6 to 1. We hear every single day of jobs being reshored. We just received one the other day. People desperate to bring work back. And with the labor component being, relatively speaking, a much lower cost of product, this sounds crazy, but I have cells at work where I essentially don't care what I pay someone. It's just important that that cell is running properly.
Right.
And that's what manufacturing is becoming. And the world is a place where this is what the things people want, but people in America increasingly don't know how to make things. So demand for manufactured products in America is beginning to skyrocket, yet no one knows how to make things. That's sort of I'm engaging in a bit of hyperbole there, but as I try to hire people in Franklin County, I can assure you what I see is no one knows how to make things anymore. And on a micro level, our company, we have a lot of things we're doing to try to mitigate that problem and have internal training systems, but it's just slowing us down. We've been very successful. We've gone from when we moved into our facility in the industrial park, 24 employees, we now have 50.
Right.
But the multiplier for our company, for Franklin County, is dramatic. I think that there can be thousands of jobs in the coming years in Franklin County in this industry if we fix the educational system.
Steve, thank you for doing it.
All right, no, thanks for having me.
My pleasure. My guest today was Steve Capshaw. Thanks for watching another Money Doctor show. And until our next chat, keep it positive.
There's a better life if I could be debt free, but all my money is a mystery. I was feeling overwhelmed and it was wearing thin when I knocked on the door and heard the doctor's in. Oh, the doctor's in, the doctor's in. She got the right prescription to help you win. Oh, the doctor's in, the money doctor's in.